Hey, what's up everybody? Hammerheart Metal Reviews here. Today we are going to be starting a brand new series. The name of this series is Lesser Known Gems. This is volume 1. Essentially what I want to do with this series, while on this channel I often talk about a lot of new albums that just came out, kind of what I'm listening to, stuff that was just released. I find I haven't been spending enough time talking about like classic albums or older albums, so I wanted to do a new series where I kind of focus on some albums that were released a long time ago, not any specific time frame, just any album that I'm going to feel like talking about, but I'm going to try to focus on some lesser known albums. So you're not going to see me in this series talking about big name releases or anything like that. I want to uncover some hidden gems that maybe you haven't heard before that you can get exposed to from this video. If you have heard it, great. Definitely give me your thoughts on it down below. But hopefully as we go through this series, maybe you'll get a few new bands and albums to check out. And I just want to talk about some albums that I love that maybe I haven't talked about too much on the channel before. So anyways, without further ado, the album that I am going to be talking about today is the debut full-length from the band Osculum Infame. That album is called Dor-Nu-Fauglith and it was released at the end of 1997. So this is some epic Tolkien-inspired black metal from France. Like I said, this was their debut full-length from 1997. For a long time, this was the only full-length they had released. They did release some EPs and demos before this. Then they kind of, I think they were on hiatus. They did reunite and release another album later in their career. But for me, this is the album that's all about for this band. This just has a really lush soundscape. It's almost got a warm and welcoming tone to it, yet it still has that harshness that you seek in black metal. The keys on this album are very prominent, so this might remind you of bands like early era Dimmu Borgir or early era Summoning. I will say this isn't quite as epic or grandiose in scope as a band like Summoning, but you'll get some little hints of the same style in there. This really has a medieval-like atmosphere, and it's like a storytelling-like tale from start to finish here. It just really takes you on an epic journey. And the thing that I love about this album is that it just really transports you back in time. It sounds like it was made in the 90s when it was, but you just put it on and you're just taken to the heyday of black metal. It's just got that old mid to late 90s black metal style that I absolutely love. That atmosphere and vibe on those late 90s black metal albums that you just don't necessarily get these days, but it's got it in spades here. It just captures that atmosphere perfectly. I will say this album is pretty cleanly produced, so that might not be for everyone, but I find that it really suits this style of epic black metal, that it still has a little bit of rawness to it, but it is clean enough that you can hear the keyboards and you can hear everything going on. When I say that, it still really has this like haunting and dark atmosphere throughout this whole album. But like I mentioned earlier, it brings in this like warmer, brighter tone. It just really adds this beauty to the music. I will say for this era, like mid to late 90s French black metal scene, this band kind of stood apart from their contemporaries. Most of the other French black metal scene at this time was more on the like raw and unhinged black metal style of things, which I absolutely love as well. But Osculum Infame wanted to do something different here and went in a much more like epic fantasy oriented direction here and just made a really keyboard focused black metal album that stands the test of time. I will say that like the riffs on this album aren't necessarily going to blow you away. It's not spectacular guitar playing here, but it really fits the compositions well. The vocals are pretty typical of the black metal genre. Maybe once again, not anything that's going to knock your socks off, but it's what you come to expect with this style of black metal. But with all that going on as well, there's also these like folky acoustic passages and some interludes there that just really add to the overall charm of this album. And it just helps to tell the story from start to finish. This album is 9 tracks. It's just under an hour long. I'm not going to go through every track here, but I'll kind of just give you some highlights if you haven't heard this before that you can go dive into. As soon as you press play on this album, the first thing you will hear is a scream. We're saying, Dor-Nu-Fauglith. Just really helps set the stage for the album. It gets into some narration after that to really like, yeah, set the tone, set the stage for the album, let you know what you're in store for. The first real song after the intro is an 11-minute epic called Under the Sign of the Beast. Possibly my favorite song on the whole album. It just will give you a perfect example of what you're in store for over the course of the record. If you don't like that song, you're probably not going to enjoy any of the rest of the album. But if you dig that song, keep listening because it keeps building upon that as it goes through the album. Some other highlights throughout, in addition to Under the Sign of the Beast, are songs like The Nine Ghosts of the Ring of Power. Brilliant song right there. Vampiric War Master. Among Mist and Shadows, the closing track on the album, is great as well. Like, all in all, a very solid album. I mentioned that the guitar work is not necessarily anything to blow you away. I'll say the same thing with like the drumming and the overall musicianship. It's not a really technical band here. It's not gonna blow you away with its technicality. But the song compositions and the way that the album and all the instrumentation is just woven together just really sucks you in, and it's going to transport you to Middle Earth. The keyboard melodies are kind of what it's all about here. They're really the highlight of the album, and they're superbly done. Like I said earlier, I don't think this is on the level of a band like Summoning. The compositions aren't quite to that level, but nonetheless, this is just a very solidly well-composed album from start to finish that's just going to draw you in. If you haven't heard this album before, definitely go check it out. If you have, let me know your thoughts on it down below. I have like heard and read before some people hail this as like perfection, think it's one of the best black metal albums of all time. I don't necessarily hold it in that high of a regard, but I still enjoy the shit out of this album. I'm not going to give this a 10 out of 10, but I would be very comfortable giving this an 8 out of 10. Solid black metal album that you should definitely go check out if you haven't. And yeah, that's about it for this video. Just a kind of a quick review, transport you back in time, talk about a lesser known gem. In case you haven't heard it before, maybe this could turn you on to the band and go check out this album. So you can probably look forward to another one of these next month. I'll probably do one video in this series every month as I see fit. I mean, I'm not holding myself to any set schedule, but yeah, you can look forward to some other lesser known album next month. So until then, Hammer Art Metal Reviews.